And it's time for the Bob Lonsberry Show on News Radio WHAM 1180.
Good morning, Rochester. The girl power continues here on News Radio WHAM 1180. I am Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry. I was here in the studio with Shannon Joy a couple times this week and last, and they were nice enough to invite me back. So a little bit about me. I'm a journalist and an author. I write for PJ Media, and if you are not reading PJ Media every day, you really should be, with the incomparable Roger Simon, David Steinberg. We have so many. David Limbaugh, Rush Limbaugh's brother, has written a great new article this morning that I was really laughing at about the squad, not the girl squad, because that's me and Shannon Joy, but I'm talking about the Commie Quad Squad. And he's written an article called Trump and America versus the Commie Quad Squad on PJ Media. So you should go and check that out because it is pretty funny. So anyway, I'm just a girl from Chicago. I am not a local Rochester girl, although I live here now. And I was born and raised in Chicago in a place called Cook County. And for those of us who live there, we lovingly call it Crook County because it is the most corrupt place on earth, I thought, until I moved to New York. Boy, people, you really have it difficult here. And I feel for us all, because if we're stuck here in this state, today we're going to talk a little bit about what our lawmakers are doing to us here in New York State, and it is crazy. Chicago was bad. It's a meme, right? It's like the murder capital of the world, but it's not as bad as here. As far as your politicians, I got to tell you, you're losing liberty every day here, folks. But at least it's beautiful here. I'll tell you what, it is gorgeous. I have never seen such natural beauty in my backyard than what New York has to offer. I've taken up a couple new hobbies. I've got kayaking now. This is something I love to do. I love to kayak. The weather here is fantastic. I know everybody's complaining it's going to get really hot today, but it's not anywhere near as bad as in the Midwest, I'm telling you. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry today. Welcome back. I've got some questions for Christina Lynn because I'm new to Rochester and there's something I really don't understand about the food here. Christina, could you please explain to me the garbage plate, because I don't get it, sister.
I can explain it as somebody who isn't a number one fan of it, too. So the vision that I've always had of the garbage plate is it is the ultimate drunk thing.
This is what everyone says. Is everyone drunk in Rochester?
Yes. No. But it's a smorgasbord of good, is what some people call it. It's
Have you
meat.
Tried this?
I've had it, but I think that I was too drunk to even figure out what was happening. To me, everything is a smorgasbord of food when you're drunk, right? So.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, so basically, for those of you, I know I've got a bunch of people in Chicago listening right now. They're going to be like, what the heck is a garbage plate? It's like fries and what else? There's like beans and gravy and
mac and cheese.
Oh,
and you can
Lord.
choose hot dog or hamburger, and then some people do meat hot sauce. Some people
is all mixed together.
All mixed together.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get you people. I still don't get it. I'm still very culturally separated from Rochester.
There's a tagline to it that is, sounds like hell, tastes like heaven.
Oh, that's so funny. It really does. And a lot of restaurants call it like a trash plate.
Yes.
I haven't been brave enough to try that yet. But, when we open up the phone lines, maybe some of you can call me and tell me where I should go for great food here, because I still haven't really figured it out. I miss the food in Chicago. I miss it so bad. So the Van Bortle Ford phone line and text line is 222-1180, 222-1180. Call in. Tell me where to go, because I'm new here, sort of, if you can say that 3 years is new. Today we're going to have on the program coming up later at 9 o'clock. I've got Jonathan Hoenig from Capitalist Pig coming in. He's going to talk about his brand new book, A New American Textbook. This is such a cool book. It is Unpublished Essays by Ayn Rand. If you are an Ayn Rand fan like I am, You are really going to be excited about this book. I have gone through it, and man, there are some great things in here about liberty. The whole thing is about liberty and individual liberty, and Jonathan Hoenig is going to tell us about that. He is a Fox News contributor and also the editor of Capitalist Pig. So if you guys are interested in liberty, this is a book you can pick up on Amazon, so he'll be on later. I also have Assemblyman David DiPietro coming on to talk about what they are doing to you in Albany. Does anybody know what they're doing to you in Albany? Man, it is unbelievable. You will not believe what's going on, and you'll hear more about it on News Radio WHAM 1180 when we come back.
News Radio WHAM 1180 Weather, brought to you by William Mattar.
It's an all-girl review here on the Bob Lonsberry Show. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in on News Radio WHAM 1180 with the lovely and amazing Christina Lynn producing. We may have a pillow fight at some point. You know, Bob's going to come back, and there's going to be like candles and glitter all over the studio. And he's going rim to rim right now in Arizona at the Grand Canyon, which is my dream vacation. And you know why it's my dream vacation, Christina?
Why's that?
Because I know I could make it to the bottom, but they'd have to airlift me out. And so I can only dream about it. It is a lovely place, though. But it would probably make the news. Megan Fox got stuck at the bottom of the Grand Canyon.
Well, and there is an update on Bob. He did complete it in 13 hours.
Oh, come on.
He's completely alive and kicking, and he's posting photos on Facebook. I know I was a little nervous at one point because he didn't post for like 7.5 hours.
Wait, are you telling me he did from one rim to the other in 13 hours?
He did rim to rim to rim.
No, come on.
Yep.
Is that even possible?
Yeah, he did it.
Wow. That's something. Good for you, Bob. That's amazing. So let's get to what the president is. Everybody's ticked off at the president, and we heard in the news break there was the chanting everybody's talking about. Christina, can you play that for me? Okay, they're send her back, send her back. Does no one understand a joke anymore? Like, does no one have a sense of humor anymore? I'm really starting to wonder because seriously, I don't really get it. This is a bumper sticker slogan that's been going on forever. Every time some celebrity says that they're going to leave the country because a Republican is elected, everybody on our side says, well, don't let the door hit you on the way out. There is nothing different about send her back or what the president said than don't let the door hit you on the way out. You know, everybody's reporting today that he disavowed this. I wouldn't call it a disavowal. I'd say he said, hey, they're not me. I'm not them. I'm not the one who said it. They did. You want to play that clip? Do we have time for that? You can play that real quick. You know, the president's response to that, I think, was pretty appropriate. He doesn't have to speak for us.
I'm not happy about when I hear a chant like that. And I've said that, and I've said it very strongly, but I will tell you, the congressmen and women also have a big obligation in this country, and in every country, frankly, but they have a big obligation. And the obligation is to love your country. There's such hatred.
Yeah, that's really the response that he made. Everybody's reporting that he disavowed the chant. He said, I didn't like it. But the responsibility is on the Congress people who need to love their country and speak better about their country. And they do. And if they don't, we have a right to, oh, wait a minute, Christina, I should ask you. Do we still have a right? Can you check with the Crown in Albany if I can mock our elected officials quickly? Because if not, I'm going to have to cancel the whole show. All right. Coming back on News Radio WHAM 1180, I'm Megan Fox sitting in for Bob Lonsberry. See you in a minute. We are back on News Radio 1180, and I'm Megan Fox sitting in for Bob Lonsberry, who has traversed the Grand Canyon from rim to rim to rim in 13 hours. Wow, what a man. But today it's not about men. It's about girls, isn't it, Christina? It's the girls in charge at WHAM 1180 here. And, just so that you guys understand about politics and what politics is about, it is not a civil thing. Okay. American history shows that our political discourse has always been extremely coarse. So for those of you who keep getting upset about how the president is and how he speaks, gird your loins, people. Gird your loins. Listen to what Thomas Jefferson said about John Adams. He paid a guy to put this in the newspaper. This is for real. He actually called him a hermaphrodite, a hideous hermaphroditical character, which has neither the force and firmness of a man, nor the gentleness and sensibility of a woman. Can you imagine the screeching and the reeing if Donald Trump called someone a hermaphrodite in today's society? Think about that. I mean, politics has never been nice, people. It's funny. It's fun. This is why we don't kill each other. It's why we don't commit violence, because we can mock one another openly because the First Amendment allows it. I am a First Amendment expert. I have written 2 books on the subject. One is called Shut Up, the war that one public library waged against the First Amendment, where a library in Chicago tried to shut me up, including lawsuits and everything else, for 3 years, because I was exposing what they were doing and how they were defrauding the public and showing pornography in front of children. The government will always fight back and try and silence you, but your main weapon is ridicule. I'm telling you, ridicule gets them every time. My second book, Believe Evidence: The Death of Due Process, from Salome to #MeToo, is also about the Fourth Amendment. And our First Amendment rights are so important. And in American history, people, political seasons have always been fraught with all kinds of insults. And if you can't enjoy it, then you should check out. You should just not be listening to the political season. Coming back on News Radio Wham 1180, I'm Megan Fox in for Bob Lonsberry. Here comes the weather. Yeah, I've got a couple of stories out there that I wanted to tell you about. And election seasons are too long anyway. They're so long and so boring. It's just awful. And instead, I have this new idea. There's a sports betting site that's taking bets now on a matchup between Biden and Trump for feats of strength. Do you know about this, Christina? This is fantastic.
I don't, but I love it.
Yeah, they're taking bets because Joe Biden the other day said if Donald Trump makes fun of him about his age during a debate, he's going to challenge him to a push-up contest. So this sports betting site is actually taking bets. Now get this. It's including the 40-yard dash, 225-pound bench press, vertical jump, and push-ups. Now, so far, Trump is leading in all but the push-ups. He's in the winner's column. Can we just do this? This is what I want to see. I want the Democrat candidates, all of them, to compete against each other in feats of strength.
Political Olympics.
Yes.
We just did it.
We did. We came up with it. I hate our political season. It's so long. It's like 12 months too long. It's the election isn't for an entire other year away, and we're already going, and it's driving me crazy.
Yep.
It has to stop. So I really want to see, who do you think would be good in the events? Like, maybe we could have, canoeing. Ooh. And
javelin.
I like
shot put.
What would Kamala Harris's sport be?
Maybe the sprint.
The dash. Are you saying that because she's Jamaican? I feel like that might be racist. I don't really think you should say that, Christina. Did you check with the FCC before you said that?
I did not, but I think that I'm suddenly fired. So
if Christina's not here next week, I think you'll know why. Okay, so, if we could just go to feats of strength instead of whatever these debates are, because they're so boring. I just want to poke my eyes out and, I don't know.
I love it. I think that we should always have an Olympics for the president of the United States.
Deadlifting? Like, how fun would that be?
I'm a power lifter.
Did
you know
really?
that?
No,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
So I have a meet next month that both of them should just come. It's in Rochester, and then they should compete. Like
they should. Oh, my goodness. So another story I've got going is, do you watch The Bachelorette, Christina?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Do you? It's
absolutely, I do.
It's my favorite show. I love it. Okay, so Luke P.
Yes.
The guy everybody loves to hate, he's being dragged on Twitter right now for not wanting to play herpes roulette. and with Hannah, who was admitted to being, a little loose between the sheets with the other guys on the show.
With the fantasy suites, yeah.
Yeah, with the fantasy suites. Why would a guy want that?
I felt the same. You know what? I am Luke P. Team Luke P.
Team Luke P all the way, baby. News Radio Wham 1180. I'm Megan Fox. We'll be back in a minute. And I'm like, wait, 1 in 4 people have herpes. There's 5 people left on the show. You do the math. Somebody's got it. Right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I mean,
no, you're not wrong.
But like everyone in the whole country is like, you go, girl. You tell him you can sleep with whoever you want. Like, well, yeah, you can, but then good luck being happy for the rest of your life. I don't know. I mean,
while I was watching him say, "Listen, I want you not to sleep with other people if I'm going to be the one," I was looking at him going, wow, this is really good TV, but I agree with him.
I know. Don't like 99.9% of all American men, or men in general, don't they want their girlfriends to not spread their legs for their roommates?
It would make sense.
I mean, it's just, I've never dated a guy that was like, hey, my roommate thinks you're pretty cute. You want to try him on? Like, never.
Yeah, that's an odd. I don't think I would ever expect a guy to be like, you know what? If we're meant to be at the end of this and you slept with 3 other people, I would forgive you and love you through it. Like, that just doesn't, weird. That's not realistic.
Yeah, and the best part was when she raised up her bread roll, right? As if she were pretending to be stoning someone, and she said, I'm like the woman in the Bible, and you're trying to stone me. And Jesus wouldn't do that. And it was like, well, okay, all right, overreaction. Like, first of all, nobody's throwing sharp projectiles at you right now. Like,
seems like someone should be stoned.
In a different way.
Yeah.
No one is trying to stone you right now for having premarital sex. Like, that's not happening. So, what are we doing?
Megan, Jesus still loves her.
Jesus does love her, but I don't. Yeah. Let's just put it that way. I think she's not being a very good example to women. And you know what? In my article that I wrote about this, I reference an article that is so good that you guys should go and read. And of course, I'm not going to find it in time. But it's about why women are hurting in college. College-age women are hurting right now, and they're going to psychologists. And the two most prescribed drugs in college right now are antidepressants and birth control. What does that tell you? More on News Radio Wham 1180. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry. We'll be back.
Happens anytime. Another hour with Megan Fox in for Bob Lonsberry starts now on News Radio Wham 1180.
Welcome back to the Bob Lonsberry Show. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in on News Radio Wham 1180. And you can find me on Twitter at Megan Fox Writer, and also on PJ Media. And I do love mean tweets. We got some mean tweets the other day when I was here, and somebody said I was exciting like a cavity. And I was thinking about that, and I think it's true. We're drilling down to the truth here, and I'm going to make you squirm because we have some really tough things to talk about in the next hour. We're talking about the repeal of liberties in New York. I don't know if you people know what's going on in Albany because they've pushed through 900 bills this session. And no, I'm not making that up. That is what happened. A little later in the program, Assemblyman David DiPietro is going to come on and talk to us about how that happens and what the effects are going to be for your life. But I think that a lot of people here in New York are under the impression that your First Amendment rights and Second Amendment rights and all your constitutional rights are just going to be with you forever. I have news for you. The assemblymen are currently trying to repeal all of it. And I don't even know what they did with the 900 bills. I mean, my God. Has anybody read them? I happen to know that the assemblymen haven't read them. The Senate hasn't read them. And currently, the one that's bothering me the most is the repeal of the First Amendment. Religious rights just went out the window in New York. The New York Assembly passed a bill that repealed the religious exemption for vaccines in New York. And joining us on the phone is Jonathan Hoenig. He's the managing member at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund, LLC, a Fox News contributor, and an editor of a new textbook of Americanism, which is previously unpublished essays by Ayn Rand on liberty. Welcome to the program, Jonathan. How did you get your hands on this treasure?
Thank you, Megan. Thanks for having me on. And you're right, it is a treasure. Look, liberty is a treasure. No one understood that probably more, certainly in the 20th century, than philosopher and writer Ayn Rand, who, as you alluded to, it came to this country in the earlier part of the 20th century and saw that collectivism was taking hold. So she started this project, Textbook of Americanism, in 1946, and the basic idea was to explain to people what America was really about. And Megan, as you know, it's not about sacrifice to the greater good or sacrificing for liberty or sacrificing for the environment or even for national health care. It's about your right to your own life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So Textbook of Americanism was her Cliff's Guide, if you will, Cliff's Notes to these basic American principles. We rediscovered it. We republished it at textbookofamericanism.com. And the hope is, as you alluded to re-educate, to reintroduce these basic principles that are really slipping away, that she understood that so many Americans on both left and right simply don't anymore. And it starts with, as you said, your right to your own life, your right to your own liberty, your right to your own property in pursuit of your own happiness. These are the American fundamentals that are slipping through our fingers seemingly every day.
I'm so with you, Jonathan. I'm telling you what, let me read a little bit from this book. These are words that could not have come at a better time. The greatest good for the greatest number is one of the most vicious slogans ever foisted on humanity. What is the definition of the good in this slogan? None, except whatever is good for the greatest number. The exact application of this slogan in practice would be 51% of humanity enslaving the other 49, 9 hungry cannibals eating the 10th one, a lynching mob murdering a man whom they consider dangerous to the community. I mean, Jonathan, I'm seeing this happen in New York. They're trying to lynch the anti-vaxxers. They're calling them, making them monsters because they want to practice their individual liberty and their religious exemptions to be upheld. And we're talking about a very small number of people, but it's like sitting around a campfire and everyone's like, well, we've all voted. We're going to eat you.
Yeah, that's interesting, Megan. And voting is people oftentimes, I think, confuse what makes America important, what makes America vital and great with voting, with that process of democracy. But Megan, as you know, and as I think many of your listeners know, America is not a democracy. It is not based on voting. It's a republic based on that idea of individualism and individual rights. And in fact, the whole idea of America, Megan, is that the majority can't vote away the rights of the minority at all. So when I hear about what's happening in some places, like certainly all over the world, but in your area of the woods in New York and upstate New York, with this notion of individual rights being voted away, Rand talked about this in a new textbook, of Americanism. She talked about how the government doesn't have the right to force people to take vaccinations. And those who don't want to be vaccinated, they pay the penalty. Those who choose to be vaccinated, of course, are perfectly safe. So she addressed some of these issues. She saw them in the 1940s and even the 1950s and wrote about them in Textbook of Americanism. And as you said, they're being played out today. And what people are missing is that intellectual ammunition, that intellectual firepower that illustrates, that tells them just what this country is all about. They're not being taught it in school, certainly, Megan. They're being taught just the opposite. Schools are just pumping out now collectivism, whether it's the nationalist brand on the right or the socialist brand on the left. America is about your right to live your own life, to pursue your own happiness. Those are the ideas that need to be emphasized in politics and in this country today.
You're absolutely right. Education today is all about obedience. It's about teaching them to obey. And we are not teaching them about inalienable rights and what that means. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite parts in this book that she says, you cannot say that a man has inalienable rights except in cold weather and on every second Tuesday, just as you cannot say that man has inalienable rights except in an emergency, like the made-up measles emergency, or man's rights cannot be violated except for a good purpose. Either man's rights are inalienable or they are not. What we are missing in this conversation, Jonathan, is the philosophical point of view. We are missing the overall. We're getting bogged down in the you're anti-vax, I'm pro-vax, I think you should take a vaccine, I don't think you should. The point is not that. It is about who's next. We've already decided to kill the anti-vaxxers, so who's the next one on the list, Jonathan? What happens now?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, inalienable. You know, and Megan, the founding documents aren't just slogans. It's not just a bumper sticker. These are principles that the geniuses, the men who founded this country, understood, and it was a revolution. I mean, think about it, Megan, and all over the world now, and all throughout history, countries were established so that people could, as you said, obey, so that they could serve. And, you know, it was the tribe or the king or the Führer or the Pope, and that was the history of mankind through all of existence up until the founding of this great country, which said for the first time that, yes, in fact, you have the right to your own life. And government's role was not to tell you what you should do, who you should marry, what you should produce, or what you should consume, but simply to protect your right to live your own life and then step aside and let you make those decisions for your own. And oftentimes, Megan, maybe make some wrong decisions. You know, there's tremendous fury now about something like Facebook's new cryptocurrency. I mean, the thing hasn't even launched yet, Megan, and you've got regulators on both sides of the aisles trying to quash it. You know, whatever happened to hands-off, hands-off, letting people live their own lives and discover whether they want to use a cryptocurrency, use a medical treatment, or buy a stock or make an investment or not. That's what freedom's all about. That's what's being curtailed almost every day.
Every single day, Jonathan. You're so right. Jonathan Hoenig, Capitalist Pig, is with us. And I can't stop quoting this book. Here's another one. An individualist is a man who says, I will not run anyone's life, nor let anyone run mine. I will not rule or be ruled. I will not be a master or a slave. I will not sacrifice myself to anyone, nor sacrifice anyone to myself. A collectivist is a man who says, let's get together, boys, and then anything goes. News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Megan Fox sitting in for Bob Lonsberry. Jonathan Hoenig is with me. He'll be with us after the break. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Megan Fox filling in for Bob Lonsberry today. And I've got Jonathan Hoenig on the phone from Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund, and he's a Fox News contributor and editor of a new textbook of Americanism, previously unpublished essays by Ayn Rand. We're talking about liberty. There is no more important topic to talk about, especially in the state of New York, where they are repealing your liberty every single day. Jonathan, let's talk about the rights of the minority. There is another quote from Rand here that, from your book, the rights of the minority. What does that mean?
Well, rights are, there's only one type of right, Megan, and that is the right of individual. This whole notion, certain rights for trans, there's certain rights for women or gays. There's only one type of right, and that is individual rights. And they're the same no matter where you were born, what color you are, who you are. They're universal. They apply to every individual. And that's government's role, is simply to protect them. And, when we look about what all the tumult that's going on, whether it's in Albany or Washington, D.C., it always starts with government starting to step over that line and say, no, our job isn't simply to protect those rights, but, to provide you with housing, healthcare, education, or even to the stretching to the absurd of telling you, what type of soft drink or what size cup that you should. This is really the problem, is that, we started, and Rand understood that in Textbook of Americanism. Government in this country started, with the exception of slavery, of course, which is covered in the book. We started with this tremendously noble idea that's really been perverted and distorted over generations and generations, that now government thinks it's basically whatever it can get the votes for. Could we get the vote? Elizabeth Warren now is talking about a wealth tax. Well, let's just vote to literally expropriate, take the wealth that people have earned, just take it from them, or break up companies, break up private corporations. So this is really the dangerous, slippery slope. It's been going on for well over 100 years, and now I think it's reached almost laughable proportions. So you made the point. We need to stop thinking about party and go back to principle. That's what the country is based on. It's not based on supporting one particular party, but based on that idea of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. you as an individual, your right to your own life, and to be unencumbered. This idea, you've got to sacrifice for the steel workers or for the teachers or for this minority or that minority. Throw that out. This is your life, your liberty, your country, and you have the opportunity to make the best of it. That's what government should be about.
I think what's really scary here and what people are missing is that when you start taking away rights from some minorities, because you don't like those minorities, whether they're anti-vaxxers or anybody else, you start to, like Rand says, it turns the minority into a helpless, disarmed object of extermination. I don't think anyone is seeing the future here. This is what happens when populations of minorities get exterminated at some point, sent to camps. And this is how it starts. It starts by demonizing a small group of people by and giving government sanction to it. I can't tell you the kind of hatred that I've seen towards parents who are choosing not to vaccinate their kids for religious reasons. And we're talking about a very small minority. It's less than 1% of students in New York. This is it. This is a textbook definition of demonizing a minority. And Rand is saying this is going to turn them into a helpless, disarmed object of extermination. If you can think of a more vicious perversion of justice, then name it. And I really can't, Jonathan. Can you?
Well, this question of vaccination, of quarantine, and it's a fascinating issue, especially, Megan, because so much of where, at least I understand it, plays out is in the schools, right? You have oftentimes public schools or religious schools where these kids come in contact with other kids. So this is a fascinating, and you're right that the tool that we need to navigate it is not emotion, is not calling out one particular group or one particular minority and isolating them, but by going back to those basic individual principles on which this country was founded. It's not something that should be able to derail our republic or derail our prosperity. It can be addressed, but it needs to be addressed based on principles and not on emotion, whereas so much is now settled on those grounds.
We are at a scary moment here. The state of New York has decided that the state can jab a needle in your arm and, against your will, and take away informed consent if you want your kid to go to school. And it's coercion. It's medical tyranny, and it really should stop. Jonathan Hoenig, thank you so much for being with us on the program today. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Everybody go buy that book, a new book on Americanism. It's on Amazon.
It's a new textbook of Americanism. Thanks, Megan, for all your kind words and for all you're doing to promote liberty and the republic on which we stand.
Thanks, Jonathan. Coming back on News Radio WHAM 1180, I'm Megan Fox. Welcome back to News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry. Before we get to our next caller, I just want to play for you what Assemblyman Dinowitz had to say about people who used religious exemptions for vaccines in New York. Go ahead, Christina.
There's nothing in the Jewish religion, in the Christian religion, in the Muslim religion, for example, that I'm aware of, and that anybody else is aware of, that suggests that you can't get vaccinated, that you shouldn't get vaccinated. It's just utter garbage.
Utter garbage. That's the way he describes people with religious views. Coming to the program right now is Michael Sussman. He's the attorney that's suing the state of New York for repealing the First Amendment and stopping religious exemptions for vaccines. Mr. Sussman, the judge refused to grant your temporary restraining order. So what is the status of the lawsuit currently? And then tell us why you brought this suit. And thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks, Rochester, for having me, and it's good to be with you. I brought the lawsuit because while I am a civil rights lawyer and have been for 40 years, I believe deeply in bedrock American principles. One of those is free exercise of religion. And I believe that when the state seeks to impose a particular religious order, which I believe is what's happening here, and engages in active hostility to religion, every American is imperiled. That's the short answer. With regard to the status of the case, the burden of getting a temporary restraining order against the state is very high. We knew that going into it. The next step is to seek a preliminary injunction, which may be from a different judge. We're not sure what judge will be assigned to that. We have a July 31st date for all papers to be submitted with regard to that. We expect to submit affidavits from many people all around the state explaining the irreparable harm they're suffering and will suffer because their children, after all, are going to be excluded from every school in the state. So we intend to continue the legal fight as vigorously as we can. I'm happy that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is an ally of mine in this with his Children's Health Defense Fund, and we intend to proceed as vigorously as we can on behalf of the First Amendment.
So tell me, Michael, how many people with a religious exemption caught the measles and spread it? How many people? Do you know?
We know of none.
Zero.
And we know of none in the state. Look, truthfully, here's some of what I think your listeners should know. The apogee of the apogee of the measles outbreak, as such as it was in 2 counties of the state, in Kings County, Brooklyn, and in Rockland County. That occurred in January and February into March of 2019. The legislation which passed on June 13th. It had been introduced in January. If there was any medical emergency, any responsible group of legislators would have, and thought this would respond to it, would have and should have passed this. They shouldn't have spoken about religion at all. They just should have said, we have a public health emergency, we need to act. Everybody has to be vaccinated, period. What happened instead was they did nothing in January, February, March, April, May. In June, at the very end of the session, they'd had no hearings, no legislative consideration. Literally, right before the session ended, they had a health committee meeting. The vote was split, which meant that this would never have gotten out of the Assembly Health Committee. And the Speaker Hasty said to a junior member, a recently elected member from Yonkers, in essence, you have to change your vote. And
yeah, I saw that.
Changed his vote. Literally, that gentleman changed his vote. It's on video. Now, I believe that what this was is in these communities, in Rockland County and Brooklyn, unfortunately, there's a great deal of hostility toward the ultra-Orthodox. This was defined as an issue involving only the ultra-Orthodox. In fact, there are 26,000 children in New York State, at least, that we know of, with exemptions based on religion, and a small percentage are ultra-Orthodox. In terms of what Dinowitz said, the assemblyman, it speaks to profound ignorance. I've been contacted by rabbis all over the state who tell me that their interpretation of Jewish law, and I'm not a Talmudic scholar, is that they are not allowed to vaccinate. Religion, as we know, has a million different variants. And America was formed in large part because of people who were told, your religious beliefs have no place here in England. No place whatsoever. We don't believe your version of Christianity. You should be hung. You should be burned. You should be this. You should be that. So they came to the United States for religious freedom. And I'm not the one judging whether these individuals have a sincerely held religious belief. You know who does in New York? The schools.
Right.
People make applications to the schools. And the schools have to make a determination as to whether you, if it's you, say you have a sincerely held religious belief, explain it. If they believe you do, you get the exemption. And that's what happened. It's not the state health department. It's not big government in Albany. It's each school district. So when 26,000 families and children are involved as they are, and there are many more. I mean, that's a recorded number we have. I believe they're probably, I've gotten calls literally from several thousand people in the state in the last 3 weeks. So anyhow,
here's something I don't understand. If this is really about measles, and I confirmed with Rockland County Health Department when the media was going crazy about it that they only had 4 active cases at the time, and then they stopped reporting that completely. But if this is really about the measles, then why did the Assembly mandate every single shot on the schedule, including Hib, pneumococcal, varicella, polio? Why did they do that?
They did it because they have a profound hostility to those who have a different point of view. And they, frankly, were trying to screw them. That's why.
I think it's control, Michael. I think they want to control us.
That's a way of saying it. Control. That's a way of saying it. They want to screw individuals and force those individuals to comply with their vision of reality. And look, there's another thing that has to be said about this. I have not been in my 40-year career in the front lines of vaccine litigation, and I don't purport to be. I'm not an expert in all the vaccine litigation, but I do know this. Since 1986, 87, we've had a vaccine court in the United States. It's an administrative court. It's not a court with judges. It's a court with administrative judges. These administrative judges have given out more than $4 billion in awards to people who have demonstrated vaccine-related injuries. 329 cases of death. This isn't my numbers. Look on the CDC site. 329 death cases have been adjudicated and proven in that court. And you know something? The maximum award for a death case is $250,000. So if you prove your
Wow.
child or your teenager has been killed by a vaccine, which is what we're talking about,
And it happens.
the maximum amount you can get is $250,000, and this is no abstraction. There are already, as I just said, 329 cases adjudicated in that direction. So that's the conclusion. So you can't say people who have objections, and now medicine and the science and religion sort of come together in a certain way. If your religion is, I shall do my child no harm, I shall introduce into my child nothing which I know to be harmful or I am unsure of, that could be a religious belief. Now, that may very well have an intersection with the scientific finding that these various vaccines, and some of them are in fact dangerous.
Well, the Supreme Court has called them unavoidably unsafe, and so we know that there is risk involved. Michael, if you can hold on with us over the break, I would really appreciate it. Michael Sussman, attorney suing the state of New York over the repeal of religious freedom. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry. We'll be right back on News Radio WHAM 1180. Welcome back to News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Megan Fox. I'm on the phone with Michael Sussman. He is the attorney suing New York State for the repeal of religious exemptions for vaccines. Michael, I've got a question for you. Researchers have uncovered that 7 to 8% of New York students who are attending school right now are not vaccinated, and they have no exemptions at all. Who are these kids, and why was there no attempt to get them vaccinated before going after less than 1% of religious kids?
Well, I wish I could answer your question. I cannot answer your question honestly. We have made that, the state has made that determination and published that determination itself, but the state has, as you say, made no concerted effort to do anything about it. Those facts we know. Who exactly the children are and why the state has been ineffectual at enforcing for people without medical or religious exemptions the vaccination laws, I can't tell you, other than obviously not a huge amount of effort's been made.
Yeah, it's a real mystery, isn't it? And then also, Michael, tell me this. If a vaccine manufacturer, if a vaccine they make, like Merck or Pfizer or whatever, if it hurts you, and we know that some vaccines can hurt people because there's an entire court set up to pay people who are injured by vaccines. If it hurts you, can you sue the vaccine manufacturer for your care?
No, you can't. What you can do is go to this pseudo court and file a claim in the pseudo court. If after usually 3, 4, 5 years, as I understand the process, the court has not satisfied you, then in certain circumstances you can bring your claim into a federal district court, but only in limited circumstances. So the vaccine court was created, as has been publicly acknowledged by everyone, because the vaccine makers took the position that if they were not insulated from liability, they would not produce the product. That's what they said. And that's what Congress in 1986 acceded to. Ronald Reagan's strong support.
It's unbelievable because I think, parents today would not put their kids in a car seat that was indemnified from lawsuit if the thing failed. And we have experience after experience and evidence after evidence that some vaccines harm people. There are, 40,000 people given an oral polio vaccine that gave them the virus, and then they say, whoops, well, that one was tainted. And then, they take them off the market all the time. And what are we supposed to think about this? The companies are completely indemnified.
Well, here's for me, the importance of all this, okay? Because everybody can speak to it, and there's validity in what you're saying. I believe New York, before doing away with the 55-year-old exemption that respected people's religious liberty, had at least the responsibility to hold legislative hearings where all of the issues you're raising and thousands of other New Yorkers raise. Whenever we talk about this, we hear a great deal of this. We hear from the other side, this is all nonsense, it's not true, it's this, it's that. There needs to be a deliberative process in which all the information, scientific, religious, whatever other information, can be put into a process, into a room, into a discussion, and come out with something. None of that happened in New York, okay? The other thing that didn't happen in New York, and this is important to me, again, as a lawyer, we had ways of dealing with outbreaks. What were those ways? Isolate those individuals who were manifesting symptoms of the disease, who were diagnosed with the disease. Isolate them, quarantine them. New York State law specifically allowed you to do that. Rockland County didn't do that in September, October, November, December, January, February, March, into April.
Wow.
8 months.
That's
Now,
negligence.
how can you make an
How is
argument?
that not negligence, Michael? How is that not?
How can you make an argument? My point is simply, how can you make an argument that these methods are ineffective if you don't use them?
If you never even tried it.
Argument? Right. How can you make an argument? We need to do away with your religious exemptions and step on the First Amendment because it's necessary. How can you make that argument when you didn't use the methods and means the state law allowed? Now, when we sought the temporary restraining order, I did make these arguments. The judge, frankly, does not address these arguments in his opinion. And I hope that we get a hearing on all of this that's a little more fulsome. And I really feel that our legislature has a responsibility in making a major change in the law, which is this is a major change. It affects thousands of children. It deprives them of a free public education, which is required under our state constitution, after all.
That's right.
When that happens, you need a process. I've got to run into court. I apologize.
No, you go. Thank you so much, Michael Sussman. Thank you so much for being on the program. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry on News Radio WHAM 1180. We'll be back after this.
1180. Downtown, it's cloudy, 82. I'm Todd Halliday. News Radio WHAM 1180. Next news at 10:30. Breaking news when it happens, anytime. Another hour with Megan Fox in for Bob Lonsberry starts now on News Radio WHAM 1180.
Welcome back. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry on News Radio WHAM 1180. We're about to open the phone lines. The Van Bortle Ford phone line and text line is 222-1180. Or 1-800-295-1180. Please call in. I want to hear what you have to say about all the things we've been talking about today. And, we will take your calls. But I do have some rules. Now, Christina, make sure when you're screening phone calls, you do not let anyone on the phone who says herd immunity, because we already have it. We have that in New York. We're at 97%. So anyone who's calling in to say, but herd immunity, shut up. I don't want to hear you. Okay. And the second argument you're not allowed to make is, what about my kid? Your kid doesn't have the right to put my kid in danger. Yeah, well, your snot-nosed kids put everybody else's kids in danger all the time when you send them to school with the flu. And I know you do. I know you do it. You do not have the right to live in a germ-free world. You just don't. It's ridiculous. A kid that actually has hepatitis B or AIDS, by the way, a communicable disease, is allowed to be in school. You cannot discriminate against a child with a disease. So don't tell me that an unvaccinated healthy kid cannot sit next to your kid because you think that you're going to get some disease they don't even have, and your kid is vaccinated. What the heck are you worried about? So those are my rules, Christina. Do not let anybody on the phone who's going to say any of those things. Okay. We're going to Ken. Ken, don't disappoint me on News Radio WHAM 1180.
Okay, Megan, you're doing a good job. It's pretty informative. I do have a question or a comment. I think there will be exemptions to the vaccine, and I think they will be when the first time a person of Muslim heritage cries foul for it. I think that Andrew Cuomo and the Democrats will contort themselves any way they can to please them. And can I make one other comment?
Sure.
Shannon Joy, she's good and she's smart. But when she speaks about Donald Trump, she sounds more and more like Mitt Romney. And thank you.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate the call. I think he's onto something here, except that, there were some Islamic people who came forward and said, that these are not halal. There's pork gelatin in some of these vaccines, and we're not supposed to take them. And nobody cared. Nobody cared. And the media didn't report it because they have an agenda. All they did was try and whip up a frenzy about measles, which, by the way, Christina, did you know how many people died from measles for the huge measles outbreak this year? Do you know?
I don't know.
Are you ready for this number?
I don't know. Hold on. Yeah, now I'm ready.
Okay. 0. No. Yeah, 0. 0 deaths, 0 complications. This is America, people. This is not a third world. This is the first world. We have good nutrition, clean water. The measles in America is a rash for a week with a fever. Now, I know it's things. Yes, there can be complications, but you know what stops the complications? Vitamin A. Have you heard that on the news? When all these people freaking out about measles and how deadly it is. Well, we've had no deaths from this breakout or any other in a decade in America. And one of the things that they do when you get the measles is to give you an injection of vitamin A. And that it shows great, it's great for keeping those complications at bay. So if you want to call in and talk to me about this, we have some time right now before my next guest. The Van Bortle Ford phone line is 222-1180. And my next guest coming up at around 10:15 is going to be Assemblyman David DiPietro. And I just love him so much. All right, we're going to go to Trudy on the phone. It says she doesn't like Rush Limbaugh. I have no idea what that has to do with anything, but all right, Trudy, don't disappoint me. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Okay. I have listened twice to him, in the entire life now, and I am so disappointed. He is the scum on earth.
Okay. Thank you for calling. Trudy, I can't let you talk about my boyfriend like that. It's just uncalled for. Rush Limbaugh is, he's my hero. In fact, I'm looking at a picture of him right now in the studio, and it's an old headshot. And I swear to you, I used to work for Premier Radio Networks, which is the syndicator for Rush Limbaugh. And one of my jobs was to take that same headshot that is signed and send it to our affiliates. So there is like a 90% chance that I am the one that put that photo in the envelope and sent it to this radio station, and it's hanging on the wall. So Trudy, I'm sorry. I love you, but I just can't have you talk about Rush like that. He's one of the most generous, wonderful human beings that I know, and I know him personally. So please, let's not go there. All right, Cheryl. Cheryl has a sad story. She says she lost her grandson to immunizations. Cheryl, welcome to News Radio WHAM 1180. Sorry to hear that.
Good morning. This is a pathetic situation. What I want to know is why do they not, after delivery, do a DNA testing for allergic responses? And they can't argue with me because I've had access to Joe Kennedy's book, and I've gotten a lot more education in this subject matter. I walked the floor with my daughter-in-law with a screaming baby. Mm. And what happens is when there's a compound that reacts to that lining of that brain, it applies the pressure. How do you deal with what are very intelligent people in this country that don't have the foresight to understand? I've had measles, I've had chicken pox, I've had, growing up out in the farm out in North Dakota. Okay? Why are we not looking out and protecting? I'm trying to factor all of this in, and my God, don't tell me it's population control. This is the dumbest scenario that it's so simple.
Yeah, Cheryl, thank you for calling. Thank you so much, and I am sorry about your grandson. And I want to say that there aren't any tests that they're doing to find out which kids are the ones who are going to react, okay? So we know that they always say it's a really small minority of kids that react, but we don't know why. We have no idea why, because there's no genetic testing. There's nothing. You go to the doctor and all they tell you is it's safe and effective. Just shoot your kids up. We'll have more when we come back with Assemblyman David DiPietro on News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Megan Fox. Be back in a minute.
Coming down to the light of day, we got many moons that
Welcome back to News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry. We have on the phone a very special guest, my favorite assemblyman in New York. I have not been here very long, but man, this guy is the greatest. He's a superhero. He is a constitutionalist, and he's going to tell us about how the sausage is made in Albany. Welcome to the program, Assemblyman David DiPietro. I'm so glad you're with us. What the heck is going on in Albany, sir?
It's gone crazy upside down, Megan. It's crazy. The left has taken over. And it is. It's gotten worse than I ever thought before I even got into politics. But
tell us how they kept you all night long hostage, pushing 900 bills through. I can't even say this without laughing, but it's not funny. What are we going to find out in a few months when these bills start becoming true? What's going to happen to us?
Well, you're right. Every bill takes 30 days, 60 days, 120 days, whatever. But when all these bills come through, like in about 6 months, you're going to see a massive influx of people scratching their head going, what just happened? And how am I going to get out of New York State? I predict by 2021, you might get up to 400,000 or more people leaving in 1 year. It's that crazy.
Whoa. That's
huge. It's gonna, when all that hits, there was nothing there to keep people in New York State. It went totally downhill. And I don't say this very lighthearted because, I live here and I've been here for 59 years. But it's the worst that it's ever been. And people don't see it because, as you know, you see the top 5 bills or 10 and you scratch your head and go, I can't believe they did that, like full-term abortion. But usually New York State does about 190 bills, 120 a year, where we have a Senate sponsor and they go to the governor's desk to become law. And then the governor will veto some and let some pass out of 100. This year there were over 900 bills that are going to the governor's desk, and he has vowed to let every one of them pass. Meaning he's not going to get his veto pen out, and he's going to let them all go, and that's going to be crazy.
Assemblyman, tell me, is this the way American legislation is supposed to be done? Why do we need 900 new laws in New York? What the heck? It's like, and I hate to say this because this is a big story right now in Rochester. A little child died in a grease trap, and it was so sad. But now the very first thing they do is leap to write a new law. Let's write a new law to lock down the grease traps. Do we need this? Don't we have a community that can just say, hey, you know what? That was dangerous. So let's make sure that we solve this. We don't need a law for this. But But New York, tell me, what is the philosophy here?
It's really easy, Megan. Remember, the New York City dominates everything that we do now, but I've been debating this for 7 years. Every bill, it seems like 90% of the bills that come up, and we go, this is a crazy bill. Why are we even debating this? Why is this coming to the floor? And when you ask, it's because one person had a problem. And I'll never forget, 3 years ago, a woman on our floor, a Democrat, proposed a bill to change the entire insurance law. And when pressed, it was she told us that it was one person didn't know how to fill out this form. Okay, so she put in a bill to change the entire insurance law. The insurance industry went crazy because it was going to add on your car insurance. It was going to add 4 new pieces of paper that you had to fill out and cost about $850 million.
Wow.
Because one person did not know how to fill out the form, didn't get on the phone, didn't call the broker, didn't call an insurance agent to say, hey, help me through this, just went and complained, and this person said, well, we've got to change the insurance law, and this is the stuff we deal with. So everyone gets affected because of one person, and it happens all the time in New York.
Well, what do you think is the worst bill that passed this last session that's really going to make people angry?
Well, which one?
Yeah, which one's the absolute worst?
To me, the absolute worst was full-term abortion. That was 95% or 96% of the state is against it. There was really no reason to pass that. That was just New York State is the number one abortion capital in the world, in the country. You can go here, anyone can get an abortion. There's no restrictions. And but to take it all the way to full term and the way they did it, so it doesn't even have to be a doctor performing it. You don't need parental permission anymore. It's pretty crazy, and I think that opened up the eyes. Why that was most important was open up the eyes around the country also for people to say, hey, what's going on here? How are we spiraling down so fast? And that to me was the number one. That was a tough one for me to debate. I was the floor leader in the debate against it, and that was a very I literally cried at the end. That was a real tough one for me.
Yeah, when everyone was cheering, and then "My Body, My Choice" is the new, that's the mantra. But not when it comes to vaccines. Just we're going to shoot you full of whatever we think, whatever the pharmaceutical company thinks we should, and pay them tons of money to do it. I know you voted no on the repeal of religious exemptions for New Yorkers, so thank you for doing that, because that's our liberty at stake. I don't care if I believe in it or not. I'm not one to say, I think these people, the ones that everyone is calling anti-vax, I think they're really pro-freedom, is what I think. And when did we get to a point, Assemblyman, where we believe the CDC and the government is always out for our good? I mean, does no one remember the Tuskegee experiments? Does no one remember that the government has lied to us time and time and time again? And now we're just supposed to believe it, right?
Well, you're exactly right. They took the exemptions and the lawsuits away from the pharmaceutical companies. And let's remember, this was a made-up epidemic. This was a made-up panic about vaccinations. There's approximately 1.4 million children in New York City alone. And out of those, in the entire New York City region of over 1 million plus people of kids, only 600 claimed religious exemptions.
Hang on, Assemblyman David DiPietro. We're going to be back on News Radio WHAM 1180 after the break. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry. Welcome back to News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry. I've got Assemblyman David DiPietro on the line. Assemblyman, let's get back to it. I really want to know, how on earth did the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution get repealed in the New York Assembly without even a hearing? How did that happen?
Good question. Let me tell you something. There's no respect for the rule of law or the state constitution. Every week, at least once a week, sometimes 2 or 3, our floor leader, Andy Goodell from Chautauqua area, he will point out that a bill that the majority brings up on the floor, the Democrats, is unconstitutional according to either the state constitution or the federal constitution. He says this is unconstitutional. You can't implement this law, and here's why. There's always a big moan on the other side when he does that, and they pass it anyway every single time. They do not care about the constitution of the state or the federal government. Hence, when it comes to any law that restricts our freedom of speech, again, if it suits their needs, they don't care. Simple as that.
It's unbelievable to me that the repeal of religious exemptions and religious rights in New York, it just sailed through. When I watched it happen live, I watched it. It was in the committee. It failed in the committee, and then there was some, some backroom dealing, and then they, just decided somebody was going to change the vote. Then it went straight from there to the assembly floor. It was there for 30 minutes and went straight to the Senate and through in 2 hours. It was incredible to me. This is not the way democracy is supposed to work. Our representatives, let me ask you something, Assemblyman. How many phone calls, what would you say the percentage of people calling you about the religious exemption repeal? Were they for or against it? What was your ratio?
I did not get anyone for it. I have about 6 families right now that I know. One friend of mine, actually, with 3 young children, just called me last week, who's leaving, who's looking for a job in another state. It's not even the fact, he said, that he has to get, in the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks, get these vaccinations. The fact is he has to get all of them. They're not even going to get spread out. His one child has to get 22 vaccinations at once. I mean, that's roulette. That's putting a gun to your kid's head. As a parent, I would never do that either.
And why would doctors in New York, why would they agree to that? I mean, it's not even recommended through the CDC that you get any other vaccine with a live virus vaccine. So if you get a live virus, you're not supposed to get any other vaccines. But they're telling us the assembly is practicing medicine without a license. They are telling New Yorkers who are not vaccinated now, you have to get 16 shots in the next, before school.
Before school, or you can't. Your child cannot go to school if they're not completely vaccinated.
It's absurd. It's absurd. And then, Assemblyman, I caught 2 schools in New York sending letters to parents that said, "We will be calling CPS on you if you do not comply."
That's exactly right.
Everybody knows that CPS can take your children from your home and stick them in a foster care system where they are 6 times more likely to be abused. They are trafficking kids, according to the State Department. Assemblyman, how are we going to stop this?
Well, we've got to get motivated, and unfortunately, in New York, when I talk to people, first off, we've been so beaten down because everything in Western New York and Rochester and Syracuse, okay, if we're not New York City, it gets shoved down your throat. And for years and years, you've just watched the out-migration of people fleeing this state for greener pastures, and they have no recourse. And people have been beaten down, and they're like, you know what? They just don't fight anymore. It's so tough to get people to vote because they feel like my vote doesn't count. New York State is completely blue. And everything, no matter what I do, most people have gone to a rally, they've fought in the fight, and then they lose. And after a while, they get so fed up and so disgusted, they either leave or they just give up. And that's what we've got going on right now, especially this year. People just have thrown up their hands and said, I can't believe what's coming out of New York City and out of the Democrats that's getting shoved down our throats. Unionization of farms. There wasn't one farmer for it, but yet on the floor, they sat there and said, oh, this is going to be a great thing for the farmers. Really? 2 of my farms in my district called me that day and were selling. They were going out of business. They said, that's it. We're done. We're losing money, and this was the last straw. I mean, you just can't fight stupidity, and that's what we do all the time. I sit up there and I fight stupidity. But
it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what's happening, but I think it's important to note and to tell people that the elections really do matter, because when the Republicans had the Senate and the Democrats had the Assembly, the Democrats could put any stupid thing they wanted on the floor, but the Senate wouldn't sponsor it, and so it would go nowhere.
That's right.
And we need that back. New York has got to have a split government, or we are going to be in more trouble than you can even imagine. Right now, I'm telling you what, I know people, this vaccine thing is crazy. People who have a religious exemption to vaccines, and contrary to Dinowitz's statement that no one is really religiously opposed, that is untrue. There's aborted fetal cell tissue in there. People do not want to inject their kids with products that were made on the death of babies, and they have a right to feel that way. This is crazy, and if we're not careful, it's going to be you next. And everybody needs to think, what do I care deeply about that New York is going to eventually tell me I can't do anymore?
Well, Megan, it's a shame that it was Dinowitz who was a sponsor of the bill and leading it when there was a pro-vax meeting. There were a bunch of anti-vaxxers. I'm sure you might have saw that picture of him giving on the half page in the New York Post, him giving the finger to the anti-vaxxers across the street who were protesting peacefully. And what kind of vitriol and hatred is that you're giving people across the street, you're giving them the finger because they don't want their kids to be vaccinated, and you're that upset at them that you do that. It's beyond my comprehension. But that's what we have leading the state right now. It's a shame.
Yeah, we've been calling Dinowitz Fingerwitz.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that was quite a moment. There's so much hatred and vitriol directed towards people who are, pro-informed consent. And I think even the term anti-vax is really, it's harassing. And, it doesn't even really describe them, because many of these parents say, I'm an ex-vaxxer. I vaccinated my kids and then something really bad happened. And I don't know why we don't listen to these people. I don't know why we don't hear their stories, because it does happen. People are harmed. And you know what? It's none of my business how you want to live your life. I'm going to live my life and take my own risks the way I want to. You take your own risks the way you want to, and let's just agree to live with one another as neighbors and be good people to one another. I'm so happy that you came on the program with me today, Assemblyman. You're doing amazing work. Keep up the good fight. And hopefully by next session, you're just going to be able to hang in there and keep us informed, all right? Thanks a lot.
I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Megan.
All righty. Coming back on News Radio WHAM 1180, I'm Megan Fox in for Bob Lonsberry. We'll be back. Welcome back to News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Megan Fox sitting in for Bob Lonsberry. What a day! What a day, Christina. This is a dream come true for me. I have been a talk radio fan my entire life. I used to work at ABC Radio in Chicago, and I was, just running around doing marketing stuff and stalking the news hosts there and sitting in after work hours, just watching the programs happen. And they were nice enough to let me do that. And it was so much fun. And today I have had the greatest day. I want to go back to the phones now because we have a little bit of time before my next guest. The Van Bortle Ford phone and text line is 222-1180, 222-1180. Give me a call. Let me know what's on your mind. What do you want to talk about today? I really don't care if it's about the topic or, what you had for lunch. I'm still looking for good recommendations for, food here because I'm a Chicago girl and I really miss my Chicago pizza. And, I don't know. New York pizza just doesn't do it for me. And, an Italian beef, if you haven't had one of those from Chicago, you are missing out. So what a program today. I mean, I feel like we've done so much and time has flown. It really has. It's flown. So give me a call because this might be your last chance. No, it's not really going to be your last chance to talk to me, I swear. Coming up at the 11 o'clock hour, we're going to be bringing your blood pressure down. I know we've gotten everybody all riled up now, but at 11 o'clock, we're all going to take a Zen moment and we're going to go and talk to the director of a new project, a new high school, the Walden Project in New York. But right now, Michael is on the phone and he loves me and I want to talk to him. Hey, Michael, welcome to News Radio WHAM 1180.
Megan, you're doing an outstanding job.
Well, thank you, sir.
When you're looking for food here,
yeah,
try Chester Cab. I'm not advertising for them, but they have, my buddy ran the company, and he went to Chicago and learned to make deep dish pizzas.
All right, well, I'll try it, but I have to tell you something. Deep dish pizza is not Chicago-style pizza. You've been lied to. You've been lied
really?
to. You've been lied to. That's what we feed all the tourists. Nobody in Chicago eats that. Like, no one. But we have this. What we have is like cracker crust, thin pizza cut into squares. It is so good. But the deep dish stuff is like that's what you do when you're on Michigan Avenue. I mean, it's okay. But you know what? I will try it out, Michael. Thank you so much. And
but I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I want to tell you, you're doing a great job. I mean, I'm thinking that every time Bob Lonsberry goes anywhere else, you should be there.
Well, you are so sweet. I could just keep you on the phone all day long, but I can't. There's more people calling, so thanks for calling in, Michael. I appreciate it.
I just thought I'd help you out, and
thanks.
I'd give you an attaboy.
Thank you so much. All right, Sandra, she's got Thai food suggestions, and I love Thai food. Welcome to WHAM 1180, Sandra.
Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Love what you're doing and love what you're saying. It is so needed. People need to hear this truth. And my Thai recommendation, if you haven't gone, it's called Saks, and it's in Fairport on 31, and it's in this little plaza, and they have the best. It's amazing. It is clean. It's good eating. It's amazing.
Oh, I love Thai food. Thai food is my favorite. There's a great Thai place. I have a favorite one in Canandaigua called Thai by Night. It's amazing. It's even better than some of the restaurants in Chicago. So I'm very excited to try this new one that you're talking about in Fairport. What do you call it again? What's the name?
I think it's called Saks, S-A-K-S.
Awesome. I'm totally going to try it. I'm totally going to try it.
Thank you for sharing these people that we don't really hear from on radio. I think that this is awesome. Awesome stuff. Keep doing it.
All right. Thank you, Sandra, for calling. And John wants to clarify my vax stance. All right. Let's hear it, John.
Well, I'm a political conservative mostly, and I look at things, that kind of way. But are you an anti-vaxxer? Is that what you are?
I am not an anti-vaxxer. I believe that everybody has the right to choose their own medical care. And I think that any medical procedure requires informed consent, sir. And I think that if you decide the risk is not good enough for you, if the risk isn't one you want to take, then you don't need to. It's none of my business.
So, kids, these diseases that we've eradicated, so you were saying...
Measles is not eradicated, sir. It never has been. We have measles outbreaks every single year.
So you're saying these things, this great leap for mankind, for humanity, all these things that these diseases we've taken care of, you're saying no, that this is okay to not get these shots.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying it's okay for you to make your own medical decisions, sir. Thank you for calling. I appreciate it. It's okay, folks, to have your own. To take care of yourself the way you see fit. That's individual liberty demands it. Individual liberty demands that you not tell other people how to live. And I'm sorry, but I will not accept it. I just won't. I will not tell you how to live, and I will thank you not to tell me how to live. I am pro-informed choice. I think you should choose your own risk. Eric has pizza for me. Eric, where? I gotta know.
On Park Avenue, Chester Cab Pizza. They got a deep dish. It's the closest thing. I know you know where this is. You'll get to Geno's East.
Oh, Geno's East. Yeah. Okay, well, you're the second person to say Chester Cab, so that's 2 for Chester Cab. So I'm going to have to check that out.
Definitely.
Have you had Chicago pizza, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I went to the Navy. I was stationed at Great Lakes, and I used to go to
Great Lakes. Yes. Okay, so you know what you're talking about.
Yes, ma'am. And I love your show. Love you and love Rush.
Oh, thank you. I love you, too. Thank you for calling so much, Eric. I really like the callers on WHAM 1180 here. They're very nice to me. Although I do like mean tweets, too. If anybody wants to mean tweet me on Twitter, I'm at Megan Fox Writer. I will take your compliments and your mean tweets. I like them all. I am an equal opportunity gal here. I can take criticism. I really can. But I do prefer the compliments, I got to tell you. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry on News Radio WHAM 1180. We will be back.
Town partly cloudy, 84. I'm Todd Halliday. News Radio WHAM 1180. Next news at 11:30. Breaking news when it happens, anytime. Another hour with Megan Fox in for Bob Lonsberry starts now on News Radio WHAM 1180.
All right, everybody, let's take a deep breath. This is Megan Fox on News Radio WHAM 1180. And we are going to bring your heart pressure down. This is everybody's heart rate is up. We're all outraged. Christina's getting calls. Everybody's outraged. But now we're going to take a couple deep breaths because what's coming next is something that's very cool. I've got on the line with me Andy Webster, and he is the director of a new high school program called the Walden Project New York. And we're going to talk to him about a really exciting opportunity that your high school age kids have this summer and for a whole school year program. So, Andy, welcome to the program. And please tell everybody, what is the Walden Project and why is it so neat for New Yorkers?
Thanks, Megan. So the Walden Project is a full-time educational experience for high school age students, and it's based off of Henry David Thoreau. So our students are over at Cumming Nature Center in Naples, and they spend a whole year. All their classes are outside, and our students it's kind of what we would call a year-away school. It's like a local study abroad program. So the whole year is based off of Thoreau's famous experience at Walden Pond, where he went into the woods and explored the 3 guiding questions, which were, what is my relationship to myself? What is my relationship to my culture? And what is my relationship to the natural world? And so that's kind of the anchor point that our whole curriculum is built off of. Our students kind of step away from all of the normal pressures and structures of school and kind of step back and learn to think for themselves, think about what is really important to them and who they are and what direction they're going in. And I think for teenagers, this has been a very powerful experience. They're at a time in life when they are really starting to figure out these things for the first time.
Andy, it's interesting to me because today's topic on the show has been liberty. It's really what we're talking about is individual liberty. And our school system, the way it has been set up for the last 100 years, is really about conformity and obedience. So can you please talk about how this school is liberating to students who might feel like they are caught in a process center, on a factory line? How does liberty play into it for the student?
That's a great question. So I think that the history of our school system is that we are trying to provide the exact same experience for every student. It is sort of based off of a factory model, and Henry David Thoreau, a main reason that he went to Walden Pond was in response to the Industrial Revolution. He saw how our society was becoming more mechanized and everything was becoming less personal, and he was trying to find something that was more connected. Our school systems, it is a challenge. I mean, I've been in the classroom for about 10 years, and I feel like what I've seen is that we try to have all of our students kind of fitting into one mold. The Walden Project is very different. We look at intelligence and genius as something that can have many, many forms. We have students with all sorts of different needs and ways of being successful, and we don't have to have them conform into one single pathway. We have some students who are very curious about things in nature. Students are really into science, things like that. We encourage them to just sort of follow their passions. What Thoreau would have said is follow your genius and see where that leads you.
I love that. I love that so much, because I think in today's world, it's, the kids get squelched so much with their own talents and not being able to follow their own self-directed thing, which is why homeschooling is very, very popular, because the students are allowed to kind of choose what they want to do. Now, you've got a summer camp coming up that starts next week, and it's kind of like a sneak preview of what the high school is like. Can you take us through a typical day?
Sure, yeah. So a typical day we start a little bit later. We start at 9:30. That's a bit later than a typical public school start time. Our students arrive at Cumming Nature Center, and we all joke that they walk uphill to school. They actually do. So we have about a quarter-mile hike uphill through the woods, and then they eventually arrive at our campus site. We have an organic garden. We have a little cabin next to a pond, which is very Thoreauvian. And then we have a circle of benches around a campfire. So the first half hour of the day, our students are, some are cutting up vegetables for food, some are harvesting things from the garden, some are splitting up firewood, some are starting the fire, other people are going in the cabin to get supplies for the day, copies of the books that we'll be reading and things like that. So that's kind of like homeroom. And then around 10 o'clock, we will crack open the text that we're reading. The primary text that we use throughout the year is things that were written by Henry David Thoreau. He's very thought-provoking, and our students don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but it's a great conversation starter because he certainly makes you think. So our students will read a passage together for about 10 minutes or so. Then we spend the next anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half just discussing it. Our students kind of bring in current events. They talk about personal philosophy, how it relates to things that they've experienced in their lives. And they really connect to what Henry David Thoreau was saying, and they kind of consider whether if it has an application in modern times. Right around 11:30, we will have sit spot time in the woods. And so that's a time where our students are just each going off into their own spot in the woods, having solo time to really connect deeply with nature. Throughout the year, they can observe how it changes. And, we use a program, it's an award-winning program called the Camano Program, which is the simplest way to describe it is it's about increasing your awareness in nature. And it gives you a lot of sort of mindfulness prompts to notice more each time you return to your sit spot.
I love this part of it. I think this part is so great. There's no electronics. It's just sitting in nature, sitting as a human being, connecting with your surroundings. I love this. I don't think our students get enough of this, and I'm so excited about this project. I just think it's great. I think everyone should have the experience. Are you still taking registrations for summer camp that starts, is it Monday?
Yeah, we are. So we still have some space available, and this is a great opportunity for some students who maybe they want to stay in the program that they're in, if they're in a public school or whatever their educational system is, that's fine if they just want to have a week of fun. But a lot of the students who are coming are just trying it out because they're considering coming for the full year.
Stay with us over the break. Stay with us over the break, and Andy, and we'll be back on News Radio WHAM 1180.
I'm 1180.
My brother, where do you intend to go
Welcome
tonight?
back to News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry, and we're taking it down like the NPR route here today. We're talking to Andy Webster. He's the director of the Walden Project New York, and we were just talking, Andy, about your typical day. And so they do their sit spot, and then they go to, you guys make lunch together, right?
Yeah, so we have a really tight community. The people who come to the program, they're coming from all different areas, but pretty quickly into the year, our students become very, very close just by working together, learning together. And lunch is a great social time for our students to kind of, joke around, and we have, really healthy, usually like some sort of vegetable soup, or we have a cob oven, which is an oven that's made out of clay and sand that the students actually made. So we'll make pizza in there, and it's a really great time at lunchtime.
It just sounds like such a fun and different experience. School can sometimes be a lot of standing in line and, conforming to the rules. And while there's a lot of, there's something to be said for learning how to follow rules, it's also, people need a break and they need to be self-sufficient sometimes. And so I really think that your program is neat. And another thing that you guys are doing, which I find really vital, is that tell us how you teach the kids to have a conversation about difficult topics that people might disagree on. Because today, in this day and age, in this political climate, not even adults can talk to one another. If you're a Trump supporter, nobody wants to talk to you, you're deplorable. If you like Obama, it's like you can't, it's very difficult in this day and age. People are, shutting down, they're not speaking to their own relatives over politics. How do we stop this? How do we get back to a place where we can talk to one another even if we disagree?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's one of my favorite parts about the Walden Project is it's really a supportive community where not everybody agrees, but we really have created an environment where we can talk about ideas and disagree with each other, but still maintain a mutual respect for each other. And the way that we do that, one quote that we use all the time is from Socrates, who said that the winner of a good argument is the truth. And so we encourage our students to just kind of deeply listen to each other. And, a lot of times I think what happens is that in our discourse about tricky events that are in current events, even history and things like that, there's not a lot of opportunity for nuance. We kind of each get our own talking points. In society, really, not at the Walden Project. We have our talking points and sound bites, and we kind of line up with the positions that our political party sort of suggests is the right way to be. And we don't get a chance to really explore that further. And so it's been really amazing. We have people from all different sort of political backgrounds of their families coming together, and it's really worked and allows people to have respectful conversations about tough topics.
And you teach them the Socratic method, is that correct?
Yeah, so if we get to a point where somebody feels really strongly about an issue, we just encourage them to, we say, okay, well, what next? And after a while, I think everybody gets to a point where they hit the edge of what they know is true and what's going to happen, and then you get to the point where people are willing to admit that they don't have all the answers. And I think that when people in a conversation can get to that point where they realize that they haven't figured everything out, and you shouldn't feel ashamed for not figuring anything out. If you can get to that point of vulnerability in a conversation, that's when you can really, that's when things get exciting, because then you're really coming up with new ideas and collaborating with each other.
I love this so much. I can't tell you. I mean, I had, you and I have been we talked on the phone for like 2 hours the other day and had one of those difficult conversations. And it was one of the greatest conversations that I've had with a person in years. And I just want to say that just for the parents out there listening, this is an experience you do not want your kid to miss. They're going to learn some skills here that are going to help them for the rest of their lives. If they can learn, if I decided after I got off the phone with you that if you can teach my kid how to do what we did on the phone, it's worth any amount that I could come up with, because it's an amazing thing to talk to someone and say, hey, I have this really difficult issue and it's controversial, it's really tough, and I need to hear what you have to say about it, and then be able to talk to one another like human beings and not insult one another and not turn each other down and walk away and not be friends anymore. And that's something that every kid needs. So tell us where parents can go to register their kids.
Sure, and I'll just echo that. I felt the same way. I feel like in our society right now, this is so badly needed, because I think everybody's hurting because of these divisions. If people want to learn more about the program, we have our website is waldenprojectny.com, and then we are also on Facebook. And if you follow us on Facebook, you can see all of the photos from this past year and some of the activities we did. And and if anybody has any other questions, the phone number's on the website. Is it okay if I give that out too?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so it's 585-317-5261. So it's 585-317-5261. And if anybody has any questions about the program, I'm more than happy to talk about it. And it's something that I really love and believe in. So
Me too, Andy. Me too. That was Andy Webster. Thank you so much for calling into the program, Andy. Andy Webster from the Walden Project, New York. You guys have got to check that out on News Radio WHAM 1180. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to News Radio WHAM 1180. I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry. He went rim to rim in the Grand Canyon in 13 hours. The man is a machine. What can I tell you? We're going to go to the phones. It's time for you to tell me what you think. The Van Bortle Ford phone line is open, 222-1180. You can talk about whatever you want. You can talk about vaccines. You can talk about the Walden Project. You can talk about school, education. I don't really care. The Bachelorette, we're always open for that, right, Christina? We're open.
Luke P. all day.
Luke P. all day, baby. Tyler C. is pretty cute, I gotta say.
I don't know. There's something about his face I don't like.
Really? I think he looks like an old movie star.
He does. But I just look at him. There's just something a little off, and I don't know what it is.
Or we can talk about the feats of strength for the Democrat, presidential thing.
The Olympics.
The Olympics, yes.
The Olympics.
Olympics. She's got it, folks.
Yep.
That's why they call her the amazing Christina Lynn. The Van Bortle phone line is open, 222-1180. 222-1180. Call me up. Let me know what you think. Do you like the show? Do you hate the show? Doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Just tell me what you think, and we'll talk about it. I don't know what's going on in the news, although I should, because I've got the CNN ticker in front of me right now. But why? My question is, why are we watching CNN? Good Lord. CNN is fake news. Haven't you heard? WHAM 1180 is set right on CNN all day. I don't know. It's like being in the airport. All right, let's see. Miriam has some comments. Welcome to News Radio WHAM 1180, Miriam.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sure.
I just wanted to kind of set the record straight. I'm an Orthodox Jew living here in Rochester. I'm in Brighton, and I've gotten, there's a lot of kind of misconceptions out there because there was a big measles outbreak down in Rockland County, where it's actually where I grew up. Mm-hmm. And I vaccinate my children. It is not, I've been asked, is it an Jewish Orthodox belief to not vaccinate? That's not so. That's incorrect. I teach at Derech HaTorah Rochester, which is an Orthodox Jewish day school, and every child in the school is actually required to be vaccinated, especially considering the recent outbreak that's been going on, where a lot of people visit their family downstate.
So, Miriam, are you trying to say that every Jew in the world agrees with you?
No, not at all. But I just wanted to put my piece in. The vast majority of Orthodox Jews, can't speak for everyone, but do vaccinate. In fact, I had seen in the paper that there is some ultra-Orthodox Jews actually put up an ad in Times Square proclaiming that, because it was almost like...
Yes, Miriam, I thank you for calling so much. Yes, that's true, that the majority of Orthodox Jews vaccinate, and so do the majority of Americans. So that's really, it's not an issue. We have in New York a 97% vaccinated rate. That means the majority of people vaccinate. Most people understand vaccines have saved lives. No one is arguing that at all. But some vaccines can hurt some people too. And there's a risk. So if there's a risk, we need to make sure that we have all the facts and people have informed consent. That's all there is to it. And one person cannot speak for other people's religious beliefs. Tony, you want to talk about the Walden Project on WHAM 1180. Welcome.
Oh, hi. Yeah, thanks for putting me on, and thanks for talking about Thoreau, because it's actually quite apropos to some of the political discussions today. You know, I think Thoreau, you know, he opposed the Mexican-American War, and I think went to jail over it. And so I don't think that Thoreau hated America. I think he just had a different opinion. So I appreciate promoting his way of thinking, his Socratic method. I think it was very open-minded of you. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having that comment. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's true. You know, it's good. The Walden Project is. David Thoreau was very political and went to jail for political activism. And I think that on a philosophical level, we can all learn something from Thoreau. And Adele wants to talk about vaccines on News Radio WHAM 1180. Welcome to the program, Adele.
Oh, hi, Megan. I wanted to say what a great job you're doing, and thanks so much for bringing this to light. I am a grandmother, and I have many grandchildren that are basically, when they go for their 2-month check, which really isn't a well baby check, it's a vaccine administration check, these kids are getting 7 vaccines at one time. They tell them, oh, there's only 2 shots, but in one of the shots, there's 5 vaccines.
Right.
That's one thing I'd like to say. And I'd also like to say is that the vaccine manufacturers and the doctors at the CDC are making a bundle of money. Many of the doctors at the CDC actually have patents for these vaccines that they're promoting.
That's 100% true. 100% true. Yep.
There's a huge conflict of interest.
Huge conflict of interest.
Yeah, and there is a article that I read. A Harvard immunologist spoke to the legislators about the unvaccinated children posing 0 risk to anyone. And she went through the different infectious diseases and said, and pointed out how stupid the decision was made, how stupidly it was made over something that doesn't really pose a risk to anybody.
Thank you for calling, Adele. I really appreciate it. I've got to move on to other callers, but I really appreciate what you had to say. Sandra says that she's got some things to say here on News Radio WHAM 1180. Sandra, go ahead.
I just want to say that I really appreciated some of the comments you made about being informed. And, you know, I vaccinated, and just because you vaccinate or you believe in informed choice doesn't mean that you're an anti-vaxxer. It's just because you believe in someone's right to choose. And I think it's important that people don't, they just label you as something that you're not, even if you do vaccinate. You know, it's a choice. It's a medical choice. I wear my seatbelt to protect me. That doesn't mean I'm not going to get in a car accident and die, even if I wear my seatbelt. it's a choice that you make, and it's a choice that you choose. It doesn't make you. Labels are ridiculous sometimes.
I agree, and I think it's aggressive. It's an aggressive way to talk to someone, and to call them anti-vax is very aggressive. It paints them in a negative way when maybe they have very good reasons why they're not doing it, and it's none of my business, really, Sandra. So
right, and where there's risk, there should be choice.
There absolutely,
or not you like it. So
absolutely.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for calling. Yeah, you guys, I mean, anything. Can you imagine if car seat manufacturers weren't liable for their product, and then your kid gets killed in one and you can't sue them? Well, that's where we're at with the vaccine manufacturers. We're not allowed to sue them. I think that we could solve this whole issue of people being hesitant with vaccines if the government would just would just take away that immunity from them. Just take that away, and people will stop being upset about this, because they'll know, oh, guess what? The pharmaceutical company will now really care about safety, because if they don't, they'll have to pay billions of dollars like they did for Vioxx. You know, the pharmaceutical companies made Vioxx, and it killed like 100,000 people, and they lost billions of dollars in lawsuits. Well, so why do we trust them when it comes to vaccines and they have no liability? Why is that? I'm Megan Fox, sitting in for Bob Lonsberry on News Radio WHAM 1180. When we come back, it's going to be Listeners on the Loose. Get ready for that. I can't wait.
Now, Listeners on the Loose with Bob Lonsberry on News Radio WHAM 1180.
I'm Megan Fox with PJ Media. I'm sitting in for Bob Lonsberry, and so you're going to get Listeners on the Loose with me on News Radio WHAM 1180. So let's just get started here, shall we? You're on the air, News Radio WHAM 1180. How can I help you?
Hey, it's Scott, Megan. I just want to say a thank you to Christina and you for this conversation. I also wish Bob a happy birthday. Christina, we'll talk next Sunday.
Thank you. News Radio WHAM 1180. How can I help you?
Oh, hi, this is W.
Yep.
And I just wanted to give you a compliment, too. I think that these issues really need to be discussed in order to make a decision. With all the information on the table, and I just appreciate you, leading those conversations. But I'm a Northeast truck driver, and I have a little something to say against the tailgaters and speeders. I'd like for you to reconsider your actions, and I'm a little bit mad at you. And those who want to pass me while I'm doing the speed limit, only to turn in to get your exit less than a football field away. I can't stop so fast, so please reconsider.
Well, that was good advice. All right, News Radio WHAM 1180. You're on the air.
Oh, you know that Omar lady?
I do.
Yeah, well, I thought when a girl married her brother, it was so her baby would have a last name.
Okay, I don't know if I understand that, but whatever. News Radio WHAM 1180, you're on the air.
Do we really need 15 statues of Frederick Douglass around the city? 15? Isn't that a little excessive?
I don't know. I kind of like him. Frederick Douglass is kind of a terrific American, so I'm not opposed. News Radio WHAM 1180, you're on the air.
Hey, for that guy that's in the passing lane that doesn't want any passing, get the heck out of the way, and then you can worry about your own life instead of everyone else's.
Look, we're solving problems here today on WHAM 1180. All right, next caller, News Radio WHAM 1180. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, listen, you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I hope you will be the first fill-in person whenever there's a vacancy. And I hope you take Lonsberry's place whenever he leaves.
Oh my goodness, that's not allowed on this show. Okay. I should have cut him off quicker. Anyway, thanks for the compliment. That was nice. Next caller, News Radio WHAM 1180. You're on the air. How can I help you?
Samantha?
No.
Hello?
My name is Megan Fox. You're on the air on News Radio WHAM 1180. Did you know that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm not on too often. I just want to compliment you, and I want to say that anyone that doesn't think that racist comments by Trump is absolutely a racist, okay? Basic.
Okay. All right. Next. News Radio WHAM 1180. You're on the air.
When's the last time anybody's seen Donald Trump's wife anywhere? I think she left him.
Okay, well, I don't know. I think Melania is probably just busy doing stuff. I don't think she left to go anywhere. But did you guys know that there was a hashtag trending not too long ago that was hashtag deport Melania? That was funny back then, I guess, but send her back just isn't funny right now, I guess. That's racist, but okay, whatever. News Radio WHAM 1180, you're on the air. Hello? Hello? I guess we don't have anyone there. Okay, let's try it again. News Radio WHAM 1180, you're on the air. How can I help you?
Hi, I just want to say what a great job you're doing today. Thanks so much. You're wonderful.
Thank you. You're wonderful.
You have a great day. Keep it up.
You too. All right, next one. News Radio WHAM 1180, you're on the air. Hello?
First Amendment's taken away, then it's time to reference the Second Amendment.
Well, you've got a good point there. That is what we have the Second Amendment for, isn't it? But I don't know. I don't think Americans have the wherewithal to use it anymore. This has been an amazing day. Thank you so much for letting me be here. I'm Megan Fox with PJ Media, and up next is Rush Limbaugh. I can't believe I get to say this on News Radio WHAM 1180.
News Radio WHAM 1180 proudly salutes America's servicemen and women serving around the world with the singing of our national anthem. Today by Nick and the Nice Guys.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
First, fast, accurate. Rochester's news, weather, and traffic station.
News Radio WHAM 1180.
Good afternoon. It is 12 noon. We have sunny, hot, humid out there, 85 degrees in downtown Rochester. I'm Alexa Olson on News Radio WHAM 1180. This news is a service of the Metal Roof Outlet. This weekend might be a record breaker, and it's definitely going to be hot across the country. Forecasters say excessive heat is baked in from the Rockies to the East Coast. As many as 30 cities could set record high this weekend. And the National Weather Service says more than 120 cities could set records for the warmest overnight low temperatures. Meanwhile, the operators of New York State's power grid say the system is ready for the hot weather this weekend.
The New York Independent System Operator says in a statement that demand at times is expected to exceed 30,000 megawatts, but the state has more than 42,000 megawatts of power available to meet peak conditions this summer. And the statement says the ISO is in regular contact with power plant owners to ensure the reliability needs of the grid. Todd Halliday, News Radio WHAM 1180.
There is a report that parent company of the Democrat and Chronicle is close to a merger deal with the parent company of several other area newspapers, the Rochester Business Journal, the Daily Record, and the Daily Messenger. The report in the Wall Street Journal says Gannett would merge with Parenton-based Gatehouse Media. Gatehouse Media has 156 daily publications around the country. Gannett owns USA Today and more than 100 local papers. The FBI has arrested 4 people for a series of robberies this past winter in Rochester, Greece, and Henrietta.
Levon Wims crashed his car during the getaway from an armed holdup at a Henrietta convenience store on January 27th. After his arrest, he confessed to that robbery, another robbery minutes earlier in Brighton, and 3 other holdups spanning the previous months. Kayla Dade, Malik Lott, and Juwan Baldwin were also charged in some of the robberies. Ian Wheatley, News Radio, WHAM 1180.
Rochester police say there were no serious injuries in a collision between a marked police car and a dirt bike.
It happened late last night as an officer was turning left from Tacoma Street onto Mason Street. The front of the bike hit the front bumper of the police car. The 17-year-old boy operating the bike suffered scrapes and bruises. A man riding with him had a broken leg. Police say neither was wearing a helmet. The bike was unregistered and uninsured and had no lights or reflective gear. The boy will be ticketed for traffic violations. Christina Lynn, News Radio, WHAM, 1180.
Longtime Monroe County Elections Commissioner Tom Ferraci is retiring. He will step down at the end of the month after 17 years as the Democratic Party Commissioner and 21 years with the County Board of Elections. Meanwhile, the Monroe County Republican Committee officially has a new permanent chairman. At a special meeting last night, Acting Chairman Bill Napier was elected chairman by a unanimous decision. Former Chairman Bill Rylick stepped down last month. Napier will serve the remainder of the current term, which expires this fall, and will have to seek re-election. A lot of people are going free today, namely federal convicts whose sentences are affected by a criminal justice reform law that was passed a few months ago.
More than 2,200 inmates are set to be released by the Federal Bureau of Prisons under a bill signed into law last year by President Trump. The inmates had their release dates recalculated based on good behavior under one of the law's provisions. The First Step Act, among other things, reduces mandatory minimum sentences in certain instances and offers resources for former inmates seeking employment. More than 1,100 federal inmates have already been released under the First Step Act, a law that received strong bipartisan support when it passed Congress. At the White House, John Decker, Fox News.
And the 8th generation Chevy Corvette is unveiled in California. This one, the first ever mid-engine Corvette.
It's the most radical redesign in the history of the Corvette, the 2020 C8 Stingray.
The big news is the new architecture. It's a mid-engine design, something that has been dreamt about for a lot of years, taking Corvette to the next level.
Next level of performance, says Harlan Charles, Corvette product manager, to compete with the world's best supercars with the new generation LP2 6.2-liter, 500 horsepower V8.
This makes us the most powerful Corvette Stingray we've ever produced.
Comes in 3 trim levels and starts, according to GM, at under $60,000, a steal in the supercar market. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Checking the News Radio WHAM 1180 ESL 30-minute ticker. The Dow is up 51 points, the NASDAQ up 2 points. Checking stocks of local interest. Bausch Health Companies at 23.02, down 8 cents. Constellation Brands at 202.61, up a penny. Corning Incorporated at 33.39, up 23 cents. Financial Institutions at 28.22, up 20 cents. L3 Harris Technologies at 192.29, down $1.85. M&T Bank at 161.93, down 83. Monroe at 77.28, up 19 cents. Paychecks at 85.58, down a penny, and Xerox at 34.65, down 55 cents.